Today for my Under the Iceberg, I'm sharing how I strategically apply to jobs. First, I had to identify my skill and industry niche. For me, my skill niche is closer to strategy, marketing research, operations, project planning. My industry niche is any sort of community that's nonprofit, that's really purpose-driven. This is the kind of work that I like, that I'm good at, and that energizes me. Next, I have a couple of job boards that are specific to my niche. You may not have this option, but in a lot of places like tech, you will, and those are really valuable resources for you to have. Next, I have a list built of aligned job titles, because sometimes jobs are hard to find. You need to understand what kind of titles the actual job that you want to do is going by. For example, my type of work is going to be closer to project management, maybe coordination, or operations. Once you find a role that is aligned, you first need to understand, are the pay and the benefits sustainable? Realistically, you have to look at that because you don't want to get halfway into the process and waste your time if something is just not going to be sustainable. Next, you're going to look at those required skills and what they're asking for as far as culture goes. Are you a culture fit for this job? What kind of candidate type are they looking for? What technologies and tools do they use? And do you fit these things? If not, then that may not be the job for you. But if it is, if you're saying, well, this is what I really want to do, then look at those patterns, look at those skills. Where are the gaps? You got to fill them in. Moving on, next you're going to, once you find a job that you want to apply for, you're going to want to tailor your resume to the job description. And people always say this, but let me give you a very easy and actionable understanding of what that means to me. If a job description says, we're looking for a self-starter that knows how to take initiative, then I'm going to want to include my freelance experience because that's a proof point to whatever they put in the description. You're going to want to take everything that they want in that description, find every single thing that they're asking for, and figure out how to incorporate it into your resume as a proof point. Say, well, I fit that, and here's why. It's going to be the same exact thing for your cover letter, except you're going to maybe try to be a little bit more personable and a little more specific about your measurable results. Make sure that when you submit all this, don't do all this work and then have a typo in the email that you're sending or have a typo somewhere. Make sure that everything's polished. Check your formatting, check your typos, check everything. Add a friendly note, whatever ways you can use to make yourself stand out in a professional way that is aligned with who you are, do it. And then this kind of leads up to my actual evidence that I know that my strategies are working, because I track my applications, I track how many interviews I get, I track how many interviews I get to multiple stages of or get follow-ups of. Also, I take all my qualitative data, any sort of feedback that I get, I take all of that into account and I analyze over time. So I use a sort of A/B testing strategy. And I know that my interview rate has increased so far from about 1.6 a month to 1.8, which may not seem like a lot, but the fact that that number is increasing, it's a big deal for me because that means whatever I'm doing, I'm making I'm making a positive direction for growth, right? And then as far as late stage advancement, and what I mean by that is getting through multiple rounds of interviews, now that's actually increased quite a bit. I went from 15% to about 44%. Currently, I'm researching how to improve my interview performance because that seems to be where I get stuck sometimes. I have a little bit of a hard time not rambling, so I've been practicing my speech skills, looking for ways to improve my performance and kind of do that. Now, let's say I do get through the interview, but I don't get an offer. The next step that I do to get even more data is I try to research the candidate who did get the position when possible and understand what's their experience look like. What is their positioning? What are their skills, their communication style? What is the pattern here? What is the pattern that is getting this person hired before I'm getting hired, right? And then you want to identify those patterns and you want to say, all right, now let's fill in those weak spots. Same goes for people working in general roles that I want. I find the patterns. I find what their work experience was like. I figure out what their journey is. Because if you can understand other people that are successful and why they're successful, you're going to be able to apply that to your own situation. And at the end of the day, I know it works because the numbers don't lie. And that's what I love about strategy and about research and about doing it this way, is that as much as it feels like when you're job searching, you're just sending application after application straight into the void, if you have some sort of measurable result and way to improve your skills and your process over time, you're going to see improvement and you're going to eventually get to where you want to be. Because as long as that number keeps going up, you're eventually going to get, you're going to achieve your goal.